Sometimes the feeling isn't that you're behind. It's that something you were supposed to become never showed up, and no one ever told you what to do with that absence. It doesn't always feel loud or dramatic. It's quieter than that. It's in the way you pause a little too long when someone asks how things are going, or how you hesitate before answering questions about the future, like you're translating from a language you no longer speak. And from the outside, it doesn't even look like anything is wrong. You're functioning, you're moving, you're doing what you can with what you have. But somewhere underneath all that, there's this low, persistent feeling that things were supposed to feel different by now. Not perfect, just different.
People often call this comparison. They say it's about looking at others and feeling like you don't measure up. But that's not always what it is. Sometimes you could be alone, no social media, no reminders of anyone else's life, and the feeling would still be there. Because it's not about them. It's about a version of you that you quietly built over time. A version that felt real enough to lean on. You didn't necessarily say it out loud, but you carried it with you. A sense that by this point, you would feel more settled, more certain, more like yourself. And now you're here, and that version never fully arrived.
And what no one really talks about is how that can feel like grief. Not the kind that comes from losing something tangible, but the kind that comes from losing an expectation that once felt inevitable. You don't get a clear moment of closure, there's no event that marks it, just this gradual realization that the life you thought you were slowly growing into isn't the one you're in. And so you keep moving because that's what you're supposed to do. But part of you is still looking over your shoulder, trying to understand when things shifted, or if you somehow missed a turn without noticing. It's easy to turn that into self-blame, to think maybe you didn't try hard enough, or you waited too long, or you made the wrong choices. But sometimes what you're feeling isn't the result of failure. It's the result of having believed in a timeline that was never as guaranteed as it felt. We absorb these quiet expectations from everywhere. Stories, conversations, the way people talk about later as if it's a place everyone eventually reaches. And when your life doesn't follow that shape, it can feel like something went wrong, even if nothing actually did. There's a kind of tenderness in realizing that what you're carrying isn't just pressure, it's loss. Because grief, even in its quietest form, deserves a different kind of response than criticism. It doesn't need to be fixed immediately. It needs to be understood, maybe even sat with, without rushing to replace it with a new plan or a better version of yourself. Just acknowledging for a moment that something you expected didn't happen, and that it mattered to you. And strangely, that's where things begin to soften. Not because everything suddenly makes sense, but because you stop arguing with the feeling. You stop trying to prove that you're not behind or convince yourself that none of it matters. Instead, you allow the truth to be a little more human than that you hoped for something, that it didn't unfold the way you imagined, and that it's okay to feel the weight of that without turning it into a judgment about who you are.
Maybe being behind isn't always about where you are in life. Maybe sometimes it's about still carrying a version of the future that hasn't caught up with reality yet. And letting go of that version doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, quietly, in small moments where you start to see your life not as something that failed to match a plan, but as something that's still unfolding in ways you don't fully understand yet.